Hello, everybody watching on Pivot Shift Ahead. It's your friend James Shaw, and I trust you're doing all right. I'm so excited about today. I'm excited about today because one of the challenges we have in building really successful real estate businesses is not being completely and totally consumed by building a really successful and awesome real estate business. That when you got your real estate license and started your business, you were real excited, and life happens too. I'm a dad and a husband too, in addition to those other things. And having some sort of way to make it all work has been one of the challenges in our industry since the beginning. And today we're going to talk with somebody who's figured it out because and I think Alyce, you'd probably say, and still figuring it out.
Every day.
Yeah,
Yes.
no doubt. But you've got an uber successful business, and now you're a best-selling author. And so I'm just excited to learn from you today. Would you first just introduce yourself to everybody?
Would love to. Alyce Dailey. I am a mega agent out of Baltimore, Maryland, MAPS coach. We relocated to Austin, Texas, actually, a few years ago. So we live in Austin, but we own the office market center in Baltimore. And now an author as well, and building some really cool stuff because you know what? Seth and I are passionate about our family. We've got 4 daughters that are 19, 17, 13, and 10. And that's kind of how all of this started.
Yeah, and you like so this I want to make sure everybody got it. You're a MAPS coach. You have a very successful real estate business that runs. Are you the OP of the office in Baltimore?
I am married to the OP.
You're married to the OP of the office in Baltimore. So
Yes.
you've got a lot going on, and
Yes.
and yeah, you're running a business in a town now. You live in a town that you don't even like sell in. The business in a totally
Right.
another town. So there's a lot going on. Plus, you're
Yeah.
raising 4 girls. So a lot happening. You ended up writing a book that is you told me it's a #1 bestseller in 8 categories on Amazon right now.
It is. Yeah. So we launched the book just a couple weeks ago, and it did it far exceeded our expectations and hit #1 in 8 different categories.
That's amazing. It's called. So tell us about the book. Why don't you tell us about the
Yeah.
book?
So the book is called The Magic Mom. And MAGIC is an acronym for, well, the subtitle, Five Principles to Unlock Your Natural Gifts to Raise Entrepreneurial Daughters, because that's what we have. MAGIC is an acronym for model, affirm, grace, inquire, and coach. And people ask, well, where did the idea for the book come from? And I think for all of us, our genius is just so close to us that we can't even see it. And so as I kind of was just kind of hitting a wall with my real estate business, that's how all of this was birthed. I just was living a life that had zero margin. Um, there was no room for error in my life, and I was overwhelmed, I was stressed out, I was burned out. So I talk a little bit about that journey through the book, but I think our genius is so close to us we can't see it. And so I started to explore the question of what's the thing that people ask me about the most, um, that I just I don't even think about. So the question that people have asked me the most, as we've, because I've seen people in Never Ending Referrals and Bold, and we've been teaching on how to build a business by referral for at least 15 years. The question that people kept asking us was, how did you raise 4 girls that are really curious and inquisitive and adventurous and entrepreneurial in nature? And that was the beginning of how the book was born.
Well, I love it. By the way, I still, whenever I see you or talk to you or think about you, I just remember we're not a bakery. That's what comes to mind every time for you, because that's what we share in Bold and Never Ending Referrals from your pie events. We're not a bakery. I love that line. It's a great line. But you've clearly done a great job with this, and finding, I don't know that balance is the right word, but finding a way to run a great business, be a great spouse and partner, be a great parent, and really pour into your kids. That's a tough balance. So, what kind of initial thoughts would you give, and then maybe we'll dive into some of the stuff you teach in the book.
Yeah, and so instead of balance, I like the word rhythm. Like there's just different rhythms to different seasons of life, and I think when we go back to we're, all of life is about making decisions, and so if we can get really good at how do we make decisions, then that helps in every area of life. So when we need to make decisions, going back to our values and being really clear on what we value, because when your values are clear, your decisions are easy or easier. I just don't think we tend to take enough time to know what we value, or we see somebody else's values and we latch onto theirs because theirs look really good. And instead of actually being our authentic self, we're latching on to what's real for someone else and wondering why we're still feeling this tension, or it just doesn't feel right. But when you're living in your true values, that's when that's when the energy goes up. When we're tired and overwhelmed, I don't think it's because we're doing too much. I think it's that we're just not doing enough of the things that align with our values.
Well, that's fantastic. So it feels like maybe this magic acronym is kind of like your value system almost, or how you made it work, how you got into a rhythm.
Yeah.
Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because when you look at the 5 words, so model, affirm, grace, inquire, and coach, everything, like when people come to me with something, I can always go back to it falls in one of those 5 categories that we can unlock, what's missing
Well, let's
for the
unlock
person.
it then. Can we unlock and go
Let's
through
go.
and kind of
Let's do it.
chat about them? So, M is model. Boy, we talk a lot about models, obviously, in our industry as a
Mhm.
whole, and yet I imagine it might mean a different thing here in this case, or depending on what role you're sitting in at the moment. Talk with me then about model and
Yeah.
what kind of questions we might ask ourselves there.
Yeah, so, with model, and I'll back up and I'll give one more quote that really, set kind of struck the match for this book was Carl Jung said that the greatest burden on a child is the unlived life of a parent. And we tend to say about our kids, hey, I just want you to be happy. Yet what are we modeling for them? Are we modeling a life that says like, hey, I'm happy, I'm really fulfilled, and are they watching us live that life? So for us, in 2017, 18, when I started to kind of just hit this wall and I was like, gosh, we've got a really great business. Everything looks great from the outside. And I'm not complaining, I'm grateful. And something just doesn't feel right. And there was this stirring for me of, you know what, as I look at, the next 10 years, I'd really love to live somewhere else. I'd really love to live where there's warm weather. That was really important to me. There's a different kind of community I want. What would it look like to move? And for a real estate professional to move, like a lot of us don't even go there in our minds because we're like, how could that be possible? And so we just started to ask some of those questions. And the modeling that happened there was, hey, we're going to try this and we don't know if it's going to work. We actually couldn't find very many models of people that had done it, and we were looking for other models, and we saw bits and pieces of things that we wanted to that we took from. But what we wanted to model for our kids was, what, if we go and it doesn't work and we end up coming back to Baltimore, that wasn't failure. That was actually us living into, hey, some of our values, which are adventure and, um, trying new things. So, what are the models that we want to follow? And yet, how are we also modeling for the next generation the things that we want for them? I mean, Gary tells a story all the time of like, for Quantum Leap of like, he was biting his fingernails and didn't know why. Like I have one of those similar experiences of, I would collect plastic grocery bags and I would put them in the cabinet. Like Seth and I got married 22 years ago and I just saved all the grocery bags. And he's like, can we get rid of some of these? I'm like, well, no, like that's where they go. And there's only 2 of us. Why do we need like 97 million plastic bags? And it wasn't until years later that I realized, oh, well, that's just what my mom did. And so I did it too. So if we've got models around things as silly as like plastic bags, might we have models of other things subconsciously that we aren't choosing, but subconsciously are rooted in us that, hey, once we identify them, can we do something about it?
It's super smart, and in the moment too, you can ask, "All right, am I modeling who I want my child to be as an adult in little
Hmm.
decisions and big ones?" The takeaway
Hmm.
for me is you took it a step further. If this doesn't work out, we still lived some of our values. You have to know what
Yeah,
your values are.
absolutely. Absolutely. Because if it was, oh my gosh, if this doesn't work, then it's failure, that's the end. And then we're also teaching them like, don't go
Don't take
try new
risks.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right, right. And that you didn't build a uber successful business by not taking risks. So
uh,
yeah, good stuff. All right, so model.
absolutely.
Next is affirm. Walk us through that. What questions might we ask ourselves on that one?
Yeah. I tell a story about going to a Tony Robbins event, and you climb up a telephone pole, and the top of the pole is like the size of a dinner plate, and you have to jump off. Well, 2 things I hate: heights and the fear of falling. So it was terrible. Like I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And long story short, I jumped. I didn't die. I'm here. Um, but at the end I was like, okay, what made the difference? Like at what point did I decide to actually jump? And it was when I stopped listening to myself and I started talking to myself instead. Like I verbally out loud was talking to myself. And I didn't necessarily believe the things I was saying, but I also realized that our subconscious can't take a joke. So what are the words? We all have we know the little voice that's playing in our head 24/7, like the soundtracks that John Acuff talks about. We all have those voices. And sometimes it's just a matter of writing out what we want to say to ourselves. And a great way to frame this, if you're like, I don't know what to say to myself, pretend it's your child in the same situation. What would you say to them? Because we always know what to say to our child. We always know how to give advice to another person. So just flip it. Okay. If you're going through something and you're like, well, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Okay, great. What if it was your best friend? What if it was your spouse? What if it was your child? What would you tell them or what would you want for them? And then turn that into the affirmation that you use. And you don't need to believe it in the moment. It'll catch up over time.
Well, you'll start to find answers, right? So what you're searching for will show up for you. So that's great advice. All right. M.A.G. Grace. And what a theme of this community has been, right? Grace is a word we've talked a lot about, especially when I launched Pivot back in March of 2020, right? Just give yourself some grace as you kind of get out there and get moving. It's a really, really important step here.
We're really good at giving grace to other people, and it's harder for ourselves. And I think women in particular, I think there's a lot of things that we do that we think are luxuries that are actually maintenance sorts of things. If we have when we drive our car, we won't let the red light go on and stay on with the oil change. Like we'll go get the oil change. That's a maintenance item. What are the maintenance items in our own lives that we might be mislabeling as luxuries? So such as going and getting some exercise, taking a walk, going and sit down and having a cup of coffee just with yourself, or journaling, or going to the chiropractor, or getting a massage, or going to get your hair done and get your nails done. Like, what are the maintenance things that we might be mistakenly calling luxuries? But we need those things. Those are forms of grace and self-compassion that we would, again, what would we tell our child if they were in the same position? If our child, an adult child came to you and said, well, Mom, I'm stressed and I'm tired, and what we tell them? We tell them, hey, go take a nap. Have some grace with yourself.
Why do you think, just very quickly, is it easier for us to offer grace to someone else but not ourselves?
One, I think it's probably what was modeled for most of us. I think especially mothers have come from this place of a lot of us have seen martyrdom. Like once you become a mom, like you go last, eating the scraps off the plate, not doing stuff for yourself. I think those are things that were probably subconsciously modeled at some degree. And I think there's probably also some, just self-esteem building, that once we do it and we see the value that we each have, that there would be more grace. And so until we get to that place of being able to have that grace for ourselves, and this is where walking this path with someone else so they can see it in you, whether that's an accountability partner or a coach, or just a good friend, really comes into play, because you need somebody else to hold up that mirror to you.
Doing this book as a book club with a group of moms, quite frankly, dads can read this book too. It's like you've written this. I'm sure you've had dads pick up and read the book, because I'm going to read it. And it's like my podcast, Positively Dad, has more moms that listen to it than dads. So it's okay, right? We're all parents and people, and we can learn and help each other.
Hey, I just had a divorce.
But doing this as a book, what's that?
I just had a divorced dad with his son read the book, and he said it was the best thing, right? So it's just, it's a human book.
100%. And yet doing this book, I could see the value of doing this book as a community, that being able to sit down with some other moms, kind of running through the same thing you are, and being able to share together would offer some immense value in helping you move forward, right?
C.S. Lewis, my favorite quote, he says, friendship begins at the moment that someone says, you too, I thought I was the only one. And so it's a book that just inspires questions that I think you will find a group of people that everyone's like, oh, you too? I didn't know that. Like, I thought I was the only one.
Let's talk about inquire. That's I.
I inquire. So just what we know of asking powerful questions of ourselves and then of those around us. So we know that the world opens with possibility when we ask really good questions, but most of us have never learned. I didn't take a class in college on how to ask really good questions. So I've been a student of people that have been asking really good questions. I've been in coaching for at least, gosh, 18 years. I got my first coach the month before I got my real estate license. So I've always surrounded myself with people that were asking great questions and learning that skill. And so when we can ask those questions of ourselves, like um, the different levels of questions, like the why questions being the lowest level of questions, but then you get up to like, well, who could help me explore this area. Like your world just gets so much bigger when we learn to ask these powerful questions.
Yeah, get out of a victim question like a why question and move into
Mhm.
something more powerful. This is great. Okay, so that the I goes right into the C. C is
Says,
coach, and obviously those two are very closely tied together. Tell us more.
yeah. So I actually, in the book, I talk about the differences between a coach, a consultant, and a mentor. There are seasons for all three of them, and they're different. I think sometimes we tend to use them interchangeably, but what I love about coach is that as a parent, I think we have this opportunity to coach from age 0 to 18. If we do a good job as a coach, then as adult children, as we've got two that are just about out of the house now, um, if you do a good job as a coach, they'll come back and want you to be the consultant. So a coach has a vested interest in the game. Like they want to win. They want to help you win. Um, they're not going to let you off the hook. They're not going to let you slide. Um, Sometimes they'll let the player call the play. Sometimes they will call the play as the coach. But once you move on to a consultant role, the consultant, hey, here's some options. You get to choose. So as children move into adulthood, coaches, I think, as a parent, we think of our relationship to our child as a coach, but we don't as often think about, okay, who's coaching me in the different areas of life. So when you look at all the different areas of life, like a financial coach, a spiritual coach, a relationship coach, who's coaching me around parenting, right? Like there are coaches for every possible area. And the bigger you want your life to be, I think the more coaching that you actually get and more specificity.
That's good. And coaches are responsible for outcomes. So if you
They
if
are.
you you know you have the right coach with you, they're invested
Mhm.
in the result. That'll
Yeah.
help make you a better parent or a better agent or whatever you're looking for, which in turn you can pass down to your kid. I love this. This is great. Um, okay, so uh, making all this work, following kind of through your life by design and having a great business and being a
Mhm.
great parent and following this magic model, some overwhelm could pop in at times, and it happens to all of us. What would your
Okay.
advice be about how to handle any overwhelm at times that we just feel like it's too much?
I can't imagine that anybody on this call has ever been in that place. So overwhelmed. So kind of a coaching moment is when I hear the word overwhelm, there's a concept of chunking, of either chunking up or chunking down. And when we're overwhelmed, the key is to chunk down. So, okay, first is just, first we got to breathe. I realized over the last several years that, because as I was hitting a wall, I realized that I didn't actually take deep breaths. Like I wasn't actually fully breathing. I was living kind of in this shallow, like I was like breathing from like right here instead of all the way down. So overwhelm, it's chunking down to the smallest possible thing of just one thing that you can do that will make a difference. And sometimes that literally is taking the nap, getting some rest, um, not needing to solve all of the problems in all of the seven circles. Hey, this is where the one thing is really helpful. Coming back to, okay, what's the one thing that if I did right now would make everything else easier or necessary? So whenever I hear overwhelm, it's okay, let's go from up here. Like we're usually like sitting up here, like because we're seeing everything. And when you see everything, that's when we're overwhelmed. We have to come down to this place of, okay, I just need to focus on one thing. And the flip side of that is when we're feeling uninspired, like kind of blah, like, I don't know, I'm bored. Then we need to cast vision and we need to chunk up. We need to look at, okay, setting some goals. Maybe you've reached some goals and now you don't have anywhere else to go. So it's about vision casting and okay, where do I want to go? And maybe we've just lost relationship with where we're headed.
Oh, that's really good. Okay, so what's the pro tip you'd share if you want people to get kind of one thing from our conversation and be able to walk away with the one main thing? What's that?
Oh my goodness. I would say that I'm going to go back to that first quote, the Carl Jung quote of the greatest burden on a child, and if you're not a parent, like replace that with something else. The greatest burden on the ones that you love the most is the unlived life. And we only get one life. We all hit a point where we wake up and we realize that your second life begins the moment you realize you only have one. And for some people, that comes in the form of a medical diagnosis. For some people, this is what the midlife crisis that we call a lot of times. I like to refer to it more as an awakening. I think it's a waking up, and I really feel like that's part of my work in the world right now is to help wake some people up because I think that a lot of us have been sleepwalking. And so, hey, wake up! We've got one life. What do you want to do with it? We have choices, and it doesn't need to look. I think there's been a lot of well, what they have over there looks really cool. I'm going to copy that over there. I'm going to go after that. But it isn't authentically us. So going back to that, what does it mean for you to live your life as authentically you? Because when we live in that space, when you get into that authentic space of like, hey, this is me, the whole world becomes just opens up, and living becomes so much more fun.
That's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's easy to get wrapped into so many other things. And yet, if you know what you're about, what your vision is, who you want to be as a parent, and how you want to coach your kids, it just seems like that'll bring you some clarity that in the moment you're making the right decisions that move you that way. Okay, show us the book again. I want everybody to go get the book. If you don't have the book, okay, The Magic Mom. It's on Amazon, obviously.
On Amazon.
One of my favorite things, do people ask you this? Where can I get your book? Where are you supposed to get the book? Where do you think you get the book?
Go to Amazon, and one of the biggest things you could do for me is go review it once you get it, because I didn't actually realize what a big difference that makes. And if you post a picture with the book, Amazon pushes it through faster. So again, that's super helpful. And James, for everybody here, I do want to offer a free workshop that I'm doing. So you can go to my website and go find that and sign up for that. Because I just want to help. I want to help agents leverage leverage the resources that you have. So go get the book, have people do a book club. If you want me to pop in and, do a little something with you guys, as you're creating communities, I'll pop in and make you look good as the agent, right? Like there are so many opportunities that we have as agents to build community, and we get personal growth stuff all the time with the company that we're in through Pivot. Like this is a learning based group. Realize that this book is a lot of the stuff that we get all the time, but that our clients and the communities that we serve don't get. So it's a little bit of a Trojan horse to help give them what they need to feel more alive and to have a life worth living.
Yeah, I could easily see this doing as a book club within your database with some moms. I have a fifth grader. I could easily see. In fact, I was already thinking about it. Terry does a book club. She should, may consider this book to do with the moms that are in this book club. Have you pop in? That would be amazing. She'd absolutely love that. And you're adding so much value to the people that are in your community and you're in business with. And that's the whole point. The way we build successful businesses is we add value to we add the most amount of value to the most amount of people. And this is an example of a way to do that. Hey, will you give them your website? If they want to do the workshop, will you give them your website?
Yep, AlyceDailey.com, and you just got to spell them right. So AlyceDailey.com.
It's on the screen too, so if you need help spelling it, that's good. Alyce, thank you. It's always good to chat with you. Congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing so much with us today. And for those of you watching, thanks for being here. All right, just go be magic, right? Whether you're a mom, dad, or otherwise, or anything else, go be magic. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.